I'm Kelsey Zeiser with Light Reading, and we're here at MEF 18 in Los Angeles, and I'm joined by Roopa Honnachari with Frost & Sullivan. Good to see you, Roopa.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thanks for having me.
So SD-WAN was huge last year. Tell us a little bit about what developments have happened in the market since then, and have they met your expectations?
Well, SD-WAN continues to be a hot topic even today, and I think the market is evolving. In terms of expectations, as with any new technology trend, it's a slow-growing market, but we have seen SD-WAN emerge from the early adopter stage to the early growth stage, and there are more deployments versus POCs in the last couple of years, right? So we have seen more operational sites and more deployments taking place today, and I think that also has to do with how the market is approached by the providers. In the beginning days of SD-WAN, it was mostly vendors going directly to the enterprises, and it was a DIY approach. But we have a managed SD-WAN offering come into being now, offered by network service providers, managed service providers, SIs. So there are providers who are building their managed services around SD-WAN and offering it as a fully managed service, which is kind of driving the adoption of SD-WAN among enterprises.
And you moderated a panel this morning about SD-WAN, and it sounded like, as you're saying, that a lot of enterprises are more interested in having those managed service approach.
Yes, absolutely. So the panel today, I had speakers from a cable MSO, then a network service provider, and the vendor directly. And the overarching theme was all of them are seeing an increase in managed SD-WAN services. And even the Frost & Sullivan research we have done, surveys we have done, and all our interactions with enterprises as well as service providers show that over 50% of the enterprises out there actually indicated they would like a managed SD-WAN service, a fully managed SD-WAN service. And another 25% said they would use a co-managed service wherein the provider and the enterprise split the responsibilities. And just under 25% of the respondents actually said they would prefer a DIY approach. So clearly, there's need for managed services in this space.
And what are some of the challenges that still remain for SD-WAN deployments, both for service providers and for enterprises?
I think from an enterprise perspective, they're really not sure how SD-WAN impacts all of the different network functions or enterprise services that they have in place. Because if you look at what SD-WAN is, it is just an enabler for hybrid networking, right? So when you deploy SD-WAN, how does the underlying infrastructure change, the WAN infrastructure change, and what kind of implications it has on the security requirements, both network and application security. So I think they're not fully clear on how to integrate this or embrace this into the existing WAN infrastructure. But like I said, I think going the managed SD-WAN approach, working with the provider who has deep knowledge in networks as well as other enterprise applications, is kind of driving the market to migrate now from where they are to embracing SD-WAN.
Okay. And what role does MEF play in developing those SD-WAN standards and open APIs, and how is that shaping or could shape the SD-WAN marketplace?
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the announcement this morning, but MEF did announce the MEF 3.0 standardization and specifications for SD-WAN service, which is great because MEF has been very instrumental in defining the standards for the underlying network. It started with Ethernet, and then they extended this to other layer 1 and layer 3 services, dynamic services, not just intra-carrier but inter-carrier services. So MEF, working on defining the specifications of SD-WAN, kind of approaches the whole challenge in a holistic manner. Once you have standards-based underlay services and overlay services, it's much more easier for the market to adopt this.
Okay. And what are your forecasts or predictions for the SD-WAN market in 2019? There was some talk about UCPE this morning as well.
Yeah, that was another key theme in the panel I moderated this morning. So when you look at SD-WAN, the initial days have seen an SD-WAN appliance or a HCPE, which customers have used, which hosts the SD-WAN functionality and also comes inbuilt with a few other basic routing functions or basic security functions. But the UCP approach is more of an NFV-based approach, wherein you have a white box again at the enterprise edge. You can deploy routing, you can deploy WAN optimization of choice. It gives a much more wide variety of choice for the end customers. Moving towards a catalog-based approach, but we are still in the early stages of that. Eventually, I think the market will you will gravitate more towards the UCP approach rather than a single appliance or a single VNF approach.
It sounds like that approach would simplify provisioning of future services as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, once you have a UCPE and you have a provider who is able to bring in all these different VNFs together, the backend orchestration part of it and integration part of it, from the end customer's point of view, it's just about picking and choosing what functions you want and deploying that. But I'm oversimplifying when I say the backend orchestration and integration part. That's where the crux of the work is going on today, and I think it's we'll get there with all the investment service providers have been making in this market.
Okay, so still some challenges to overcome there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, Roopa. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you, Kelsey.